The Joe Rogan Experience.
And you've got your social engineering aspect of it. And the social engineering aspect of it it's very problematic for me. There was an article that was written recently, and one of the guys, he was saying something about me, and that no, silencing white nationalism and keeping them off your platform is not censorship, which is the dumbest way to sort of boil down my position on censorship and ignore the real problems of other people deciding what someone can or can't say and what is or is not offensive. One of the best examples is a woman named, I think it's Megan Murphy is her name. She's what's called a trans exclusionary. What's the word? Why am I exclusionary? Trans exclusionary radical feminist, a TERF. And she was in a debate with...
I don't blame you for not being able to remember that.
Trans exclusionary, but exclusionary is a weird word. She was in a debate with people about whether or not trans women should be able to invade feminist women's spaces. So a person who's biologically male, who becomes a female later in life, should be able to make decisions in feminist debates and
right, and get into their sports and all that.
So she says, yes, the sports is the big one for me, particularly fighting.
Yeah.
She says, but a man is never a woman. This is what she says.
Okay.
So Twitter asked her to take it down. Yeah. So she takes a screenshot of that. She takes it down, takes a screenshot of it, and reposts it. Like, fuck you. Like, I'm going to put it back up again this way. Mm-hmm. They ban her for life. For life. You know who's on Twitter with no problems? O.J. Simpson. O.J. Simpson murdered 2 people. He fucking went to jail for armed kidnapping, and he's on TV. He's on every day. Hello, Twitter world.
Well, Hamas,
he's fine.
Among other things,
Hamas
too.
Like this Megan Murphy, she says a man is not a woman. She's fucking correct biologically. She's biologically correct. I mean, if we want to decide socially and culturally that we're going to accept this person as a woman, this is a completely different discussion. But she's right. She's biologically correct. The scientists would say, well, here we go. We've got some chromosomes here, and we've got X and Y, and this is a penis, this is a vagina, this is a man, this is a woman. And, you know, maybe this person identifies with being a woman, but she's saying you're not a woman, and you're banning her for life. This is crazy. It is. But it's woke culture in its most boiled down form. It has nothing to do with white nationalism. It has nothing to do with race. It has to do with a person that feels like their own particular protected group, being a feminist, being a woman, and trying to like carve out rules where women are protected. And she's saying, well, I don't like the fact that these trans women are entering into this space and dominating it in certain aspects.
Right. And it's an example of this intersectional coalition that they've created, coming to terms with itself. And, you know, a lot of the feminist groups aligned with us against the Equality Act, because the Equality Act would have put into real practice this, into concrete terms, biological men getting into women's sports.
Yes.
And so among other things, by the way, and a lot of feminist groups were finally coming out and saying, no, this is not correct. Like we're a feminist group, so let's protect women, which I fully agree with. But you know, on a deeper level, it's interesting to watch that intersectional coalition just implode. And it stems from this desire on their part to divide everybody up into 3 categories of oppressed, the oppressors, and then the champions of the oppressed, right? And the woke culture is the champions, of course. That's how they label themselves. They label their intersectional coalition as the oppressed, and then they have this whole other kind of intersectional coalition of oppressors, and they connect it all with the worst of the worst, which is white supremacist Nazis. And so they say you're all connected with that somehow, even if you're just making a pretty bland statement about biological men and women. Somehow that connects to this, and this is how you see them reason their way through it. And what that does is it undercuts real basic arguments, because you're attacking the intent of that argument, because you're connecting it with the worst of the worst, right?
Yes.
We kill Nazis. That's what our country does. We did it. And so if you're connecting all of these things you disagree with that, well, you don't even have to make an argument anymore.
Yes. And the idea that you're going to somehow or another convince people that everyone is a Nazi just because you say so, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
What's going to work is people are going to they're going to go to the other side. You're making more Republicans with this crazy talk. You're
Well, I hope so.
Well, that's really what's going on. I mean, my friend Chris Pratt wore a T-shirt that said "Don't tread on me."
I remember that.
What the fuck, man? It's a goddamn ancient flag representing our separation from England and our want to be able to start our own country. I mean, that's what it was.
Yeah, exactly. And it gets to a deeper culture war. There's many fronts on the culture wars. This is a big one. Is America based on bad things or good things? Are we good, intrinsically good, or are we bad? This is a huge fissure in the culture war right now. And when we I have a lot of fear that these things are boiling up and that we're destroying the few things that hold us together. You know, as a country, like what makes us Americans, it's not ethnicity. It's not religion. It's not even really geographic area because our geographic area has changed over time. It is ideals. It is ideals, and those ideals are symbolized by certain things, and that's the U.S. Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Pledge of Allegiance, the flag, the national anthem. Like these things matter, and I think they're very important for a culture. And this actually all ties back into this sort of oppressor-oppressed kind of ideology, because if you tell people that they're oppressed, well, then they have to look for an oppressor. And that starts small. It starts with your parent or your boss or somebody you don't like. Okay, it's their fault. That's why I have something bad happen to me. It's somebody else's fault. And then it grows into groups. Okay, now you get into identity politics and pitting identities against each other. Then you're starting to blame institutions. Okay, and this is kind of when we talk about Bernie Sanders, he's doing this often. He's blaming institutions for our issues constantly. That has morphed into blaming the entire country. The entire country as an American ideal is to blame. I just think that's really both. I think it's historically inaccurate. I think it's inaccurate objectively, but I just think it's dangerous. I don't think it can go anywhere good unless you just want total revolution, which I think some people do. It tears us apart, right? And we're getting divided along. We're allowing the pop culture to get involved in this too. So we can't share pop culture anymore because musicians are getting involved in politics and comedians and late night shows. And it's like, okay, well now half the country can't even watch it because those people are just telling them how stupid they are. Yeah. We're losing these basic symbols that bring us together, and then we're also losing the pop culture that kind of brings us together. That should be something we can just share and then not talk politics, but that's been removed as well. And I just the culture war it's not going a good direction.
I'm hoping that this is an adolescent stage in the development of this strange country that's an experiment in self-government. That's what I'm thinking.